It's Wellness Wednesdays. It's Wellness Wednesdays, and this microphone is kind of in the wrong place. Forgive me, but it's Wellness Wednesdays, and my eyes are kind of runny. Allergies mixed with the eye strain, so forgive me. I'm not weepy. I'm having a bit of a rough day, eye-wise. But we're talking today about something that came up in a client session where I said a shortened version of this. And the client said, "Have you made a video about this?" And I'm like, "No, maybe you should." Okay. So we're talking about purpose versus causes and how some people treat them as the same thing, but they are really not. And it's really important to know the difference between this is my separation, the words I use to separate two different states of being. This is entirely me. Any resemblance to anybody else's theories on this sort of thing is completely coincidental. I do not know of anybody else that separates this stuff as I do. This is a Leanna special. So if you like this sort of content, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K. You guys have been super generous the last couple weeks, which unfortunately, when a time generosity is needed because people need the support. And if you'd like to sign up for a Leanna Care session yourself, it is summer. It's a good time to do it because people go away, they go on vacation. So there's more availability than usual, especially Wednesday and Thursday mornings, Eastern time. So what we're talking about here is we've all heard of supporting a cause. But let's think of the other way to use the word cause. Something causes something to happen, right? Whereas purpose, we talk about being on purpose, fulfilling your purpose. But tools have a purpose as well, right? And people tend to doing things for a cause and doing things for a purpose are very different things. The way I see it is that purposes narrow your focus. If you're doing these things for a specific purpose, then obviously if it fulfills the purpose, you get it right. If you don't fulfill the purpose, you got it wrong, and you correct because there's a specific problem you're trying to solve. A cause, on the other hand, well, people do things for causes all the time. And the only litmus test there is whether they care about the cause. It's much harder to go, well, you're not being effective here. And this is where I and a lot of activists, I don't consider myself an activist, I consider myself an advocate. I do things for specific purposes, not causes. People go out and protest the government for mental health funding all the time. I, on the other hand, went, okay, what can I do? What can I do to suit a specific purpose to provide people an alternative to the existing system? And to me, those are very different motivators, because doing something for a cause, when I say somebody, what are you trying to do with your protest? What are you trying to do with your movement? Well, raise awareness. Does awareness need to be raised? And that's where the conversation pretty much ends. Is there a purpose to raising awareness? Do you really think that that people need awareness? Well, yes. For instance, what's going on, with the storming of government buildings in Kenya, you see a lot of that. You don't see a lot of things about, well, they did that because they put a new tax on basic foodstuffs at a time of global food insecurity and rising costs already. They taxed food. When you say they taxed food, it sounds like a much different motivation than, oh, a finance bill passed. That's something you can raise awareness of, right? Something that's in the news every day. There's no real need to raise awareness. And so I think of the things I do as, okay, a screwdriver has a specific purpose. You can use it to gouge someone's eye out, but that's not what it's designed to do. It's designed to drive screws. It's right in the name. A hammer also has a purpose. Again, it can be used as a murder weapon, but that's not what it's intended to do. And, off-label drugs, different mental health techniques. You have to understand the purpose of a technique in order to give it to somebody and explain it to someone. And the cause of improving mental health, you don't measure performance when you're doing something for a cause, because the cause caused you to do what you did. God made me do it. No. If you focus on your purpose instead of the cause, you end up being much more accountable, which is why I think I hear the whole on purpose, talk about purpose mostly in mental health spaces that are majority Black people, because the whole idea of slipping up is a very real concern in those spaces. The idea that they just throw themselves at police as part of a protest, it takes a lot for that community to do that. The whole idea of having a purpose, make goal, meet goal, make goal, meet goal. That's because of years and years and years and years of investment in those communities that have only been partially effective because they thought they were saviors in the communities instead of going, okay, is this working? And so they partially worked. There's a lot of mental health language, but we're constantly beating our heads against the wall about a lot of money being put into programs that people don't know exist. So they can say they earmark the money and not spend it. Government's awesome. If your purpose is to invest in a community, then success means you spent the money. You actually did the programs. Not care very much and put earmarks on money. And that's why I'm not a big fan of causes. Even though I have very strong ethical underpinnings, I think causes end up being excuses for bad behavior too often, right? I remember talking to some of the Gamergaters back in the day, and I kept saying, what is the purpose of this initiative? Well, it's about ethics in games journalism, or it's about getting the politics out of games. No, what's the purpose for what you're doing right now? These memes, this initiative, what's the purpose? And they didn't actually know. And I said, well, then how are you going to win this? Oh, we know we're not going to win. Purpose-driven thinking means you play to win or you don't play, right? That doesn't mean you're gonna win, but there has to be a win condition. And the people who did have a win condition, it was, well, to get everybody fired. It's like, okay, well, this isn't the way to do that. They didn't really mean that. They didn't think they could actually make change. And so they didn't bother to really focus on what they could accomplish. And so they acted for a cause, but without purpose. And so they got demonized. Similarly, with a lot of protest movements, transgender advocacy got into this stuff. You guys know I'm very pro-trans rights, pro-trans acceptance. And this is why I got very upset with, say, the Hogwarts Legacy boycott. I thought it was misguided. The cause of, opposing transphobia. Okay, that's great, but what's your purpose of your boycott? Because unless you actually have a hope in hell of making a boycott stick, you're just handing an easy victory to J.K. Rowling, because boycotts take like a decade to really bite. They're not short things. The anti-apartheid boycotts and divestiture movement took 10 years to really see changes. You can't do that with a game release. It would have been better if your purpose of your action was really to make people aware of and reduce transphobia. I'm not your friend if you play this game. That's not the way to make that purpose. The way to meet that purpose is, okay, you're going to play the game. Can I talk to you for a few minutes? Can I have 10 minutes of your time just to ask something? Are you aware of what J.K. Rowling has said about trans people? Okay, yes or no? If they do, move on to step 2. If they don't, let them know. And then listen, because the people I talked to were like, it's a big part of my childhood. I know she's awful, but I just need my happy. All right, fine. And I said, would you consider donating money to some pro-trans causes? Match the purchase price of the game. Every single person I had that conversation with said yes. So, okay, we funded a trans charity. We did something. We acted with purpose instead of being in service to a cause. The other thing purpose versus cause helps you with is stripping yourself of you made me thinking. They made me. The road to hell is paved with you made me, because I have seen so many people doing utterly shitty things lately and saying, I have no choice. I don't want to do this. You made me. No, that person you don't like didn't make you do anything. Stalker Chan doesn't make me do anything. I've been throwing more shade at her than I usually do because she got caught putting her own name on Kiwi Farms. And I am just, who does that? And I am a little bit concerned about what might happen there, even though I can't stand her. She's a human being. And holy shit, get a grip, girl. And it's also, she's just so petty about going after my looks and my age that it's fun every so often to, stoop a little bit, not to her level, because I keep saying, she looks fine, but maybe by conventional standards, don't throw stones from that glass house. But I never call her ugly. I never call her old. I never call her anything like that, because that's not my purpose in continuing to talk about Stalker Chan. My purpose in continuing to talk about Stalker Chan is suing her for defamation be a complete waste of money. She's got nothing to take. She brags about being this big success, but then, a week earlier, she was complaining she had no air conditioning in her apartment. In Toronto, you gotta be paying pretty cheap rent to have no AC. So, no shame in that. Just don't act like you're this big success and then complain you can't get your hair cut every month and don't have AC. I don't get my hair cut every month. Because I will let it go for 6 months if I'm not careful and I'm trying to look a little more presentable of late. Just a little bit of effort to show I'm trying. I'm not trying to make miracles here, but I go every 10 weeks. And that's perfectly adequate. So her complaining about not getting a haircut every month, okay, hon. But my entire purpose of continuing to talk about her at all is because she keeps trying to ruin my reputation. So it was actually a police officer that told me, look, you have a platform. Just tell your story. And I did. And it worked. People believe me and not her. And sure, every so often somebody pretends to believe her or believes her out of spite. They'll find out the hard way, and that's okay. You know, the people that don't like me can all congregate together to circle jerk each other. That's cool. It's funny because the latest Hell of a Boss was like the I Hate Blitz party. And it's like an I Hate Leanna party would be awesome. Like, awesome. Just see who shows up. That'd be really cool. Because if you're judged by the caliber of your enemies, I'd love to see who would show up to something like that. And hey, if hating me gets people together and they actually have a good time, sweet. But I mean, that episode of Hell of the Boss kind of showed that it was kind of sad and a bunch of people overcompensating, and acting on hate and revenge doesn't get you anywhere. And one of the things I do with, Stalker Chan, and Stalker Chan comes from Majima calling Kiryu Chan. I'm like, yeah, Majima energy. Because Majima's post-pain. And one of the things I'm doing, the purpose of talking about it, is to let people know, yeah, people can say horrible fucking crap about you. It doesn't make it true. And people are not automatically going to believe them, or they may believe them in the short term. But I really believe if you just keep going out there and being you and showing people who you are, enough people will realize who is telling the truth and who's lying. And the hardest thing to do is to keep your shit when people are lying about you. It hurts me deeply that she's lying about me doing awful things to a trans woman in transition around 2011. Now, even if that were true, like, I've clearly learned from that. And I have learned from my position in 2011. I'm not going to deny that. I just didn't do what she claimed. The idea that I rip people off with a Kickstarter, it's just not true. Does it piss me off that she's spreading that lie? Yeah, because I know that happens, and it is a very real thing. And I'm grateful that people trust me with their money, and things do run late. Things don't go according to plan. I mean, I'd planned to do a DVD for, I think it was Lady Bits, and it just, the entire DVD printing industry collapsed between when I did the Kickstarter and it was time to actually make the DVDs. And people understood. I put it up online. People still got, if they wanted to make physical media, they could make physical media, but it was just prohibitively expensive. And those are the only things. And then obviously, you estimate how long things are going to take, especially with games. Oh God. So wrong. But that was well-meaning. That wasn't an attempt to defraud everyone. It just, shit happens. Life happens. Medical crises happen. People died. Literally, family members died. And it frustrates me and it hurts because it's not true. The thing calling me a narcissist, that one doesn't bother me because No one believes that. Well, certain people are going to believe it because I put myself on camera, but that one I don't care as much about because big deal. But it bugs me every time she goes after my appearance and she goes after my age because that vicariously hurts other people. And so I have to act with purpose to give people ways to feel good about themselves, in their own skin. I don't claim to be young. Part of the thing I think I bring to the table is I started gaming on a Tandy 1000 and Atari. I've seen it evolve, Pac-Man, I was 3, Bucka Bucka, That's, you can't do that and be young. I'm not young. I'm not old. I'm 46 years old. Right? So, okay, I am the age I'm at. It's just, I don't understand. That's one of the things that no matter what we do, we can't diet to be less old. It's just a fact, And I don't like her claiming to be, she's got woman-owned business all over the place. And then she's attacking other women for their looks. And I don't think you should have to look like a model to have an opinion. Anybody, I don't think anybody should have to look a certain way to have their opinions treated as valid. That's just, it's ridiculous. It's hurting our collective ability to get the best ideas out there. And so all I can really do is address it and say, yeah, it's not nice. Yeah, I wish for her own sake she'd be less petty. But people like that exist. And, instead of just doing the platitude of don't let it stop you, I come here and talk about here's how it doesn't stop me. I struggle with body dysmorphia. And thanks to her, I've been talking more about that. The selfies on Instagram, I hate selfies. I'm doing it now so that when it really kicks up, it's like, no, you don't look distorted. This is what you actually look like. Because, you'll see bad video, bad camera angles, and unflattering pictures. Like, no, like when you pose properly for a photo, you still look like this. Fair. And, because I do have various conditions where I wake up and I don't know how much inflammation there's going to be. I don't know what shape my eyes are going to be in. Is my face going to be puffy? Are my hands going to work? I have to be gentle and compassionate with myself. And the whole reason I got into peer counseling is it's one thing for a therapist to say, you have to work on this. Here's a workbook. It's another thing entirely of having to struggle profoundly with a sense of self-worth and sense of self-esteem and knowing that this is a lifelong thing. It does get easier, but everyone has to constantly do the self-compassion and self-validation work. And I can honestly say that a true sense of self has to come from within. Yes, you need help from your environment, but you do have to be able to self-validate to counter people being really, really awful to you. I first got into it because of women and girls, and we know that we start losing women and girls on 7th, 8th grade because they're like, oh, I'm just not good at this. And that's not good. But more and more, I've discovered that men actually need the guidance, well, this is what worked for me. Maybe it won't work for you, but here's the underlying principles that we're going for here. Because I had to dope it all out myself. And it took 10 years. That's too long. I lost a decade of my life to this shit. I don't want anybody else to have to go through that. Because, nobody should ever knock on someone for being old because it means they're still here. Right? The alternative's worse. The only thing worse than getting old is not getting old. right? And I love what Paulina Porskova is doing that way. I mean, okay, she's a model. She's got good genes, but still, I love what she's doing that way. There's a lot of self-acceptance stuff that isn't a reason to quit. It isn't making excuses for yourself. It's looking at things and going, yeah, this is something I'm kind of embarrassed and ashamed about. This is something I do struggle with. What's a flip side? What's the shadow of being old? Well, I saw most of the history of gaming firsthand. I can say, no, that is not what Metroid felt like when it first came out. The intent of Metroid was not to objectify women with a bikini as a reward. The intent of Metroid was going, ha, you thought I was a guy, sucker, right? That's how it felt at the time. That's what the experience was like. And it's not useful to analysis, feminist or otherwise, to rewrite what the intent and what the purpose was for the speedrun endings of Metroid. Yeah, it was a little sexy lady, but it was the late 80s. It was the era of the supermodel. Women were actually working out because fitness, not just thinness, for the first time, looking aggressive, was suddenly in for women. It was androgyny. It was unisex. It was the freaking 80s, man. We were doing gender defiance long before it was trendy. And that's important. And I could lash out and say she made me do it. I could be a weepy victim because, oh, it's for the cause. It's raising awareness for online harassment and stalking. Yeah, I could all do that. But what purpose would it serve? There's plenty of people doing that. I'm not adding anything by doing that. I can do what I can do. You know, I'm not terribly charming. You know, my Riz score ain't that big. But I can put together an argument. And more importantly, I can listen really well. And so I listen to people and I come here and I report what I find. And you know what? That I see the positive difference that makes. The fact that people who self-describe as like Republicans and men's rights activists bother to comment on my channel. And I disagree with them completely, but at least they're being vaguely civil. That's a win, I think. Well, why would you want people wanting your channel? Well, because we don't get anywhere if we only talk to people who agree with us. Right? That's the purpose of debate. And I want actual debates. Not these stupid slap fights where people talk past each other to score points with the people who already agree with them, but just drive off anybody who's not a true believer, anybody who's remotely on the fence is like, that looks fucking nuts and that person's really, really angry. Not what I want to sign up with. I want people who aren't sure. Here's something you can live with. Here's something you can make work for you. And if what I do doesn't work for you, I guarantee you there is something that does work for you. We just have to find it together. And that's what these videos are for. That's what the Discord's for. That's what the Leanna Cares service is for. And your support helps with that. So help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. New goal is posted. And if you want to sign up for a Leanna Care session, links in the description box below. Thanks for watching and be well.